Hey, you guys. So glad you're with me on this journey through Vedic astrology. And today we're going to be looking at the nine grahas or the nine planets. And graha doesn't actually mean planet. So let's dive in what that is all about and what the grahas have in store for you. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to notice looking at all the grahas laid out here is that, especially if you're coming from traditions that are used to mixed genders, not here. In the classical Navagraha, Nava means the nine grahas, a system of Hindu astrology, most of the grahas are personified as male because they were framed as rishis, kings, teachers, or warriors in mythic language. Ancient Sanskrit texts often defaulted to male grammatical forms for cosmic agents, but the deeper story is a bit more nuanced. Grahas are not strictly gods in the same way. The grahas are cosmic intelligences or forces. They were later personified so people could relate to them. When the Puranas describe them, they are given royal or sage identities, which in ancient society were mostly male roles. So it's partly cultural storytelling. Several actually have strong feminine connections. Even though the Navagraha icons are male, feminine power is present behind them. For example, Chandra is deeply tied to the nakshatras, who are his 27 wives, the 27 lunar mansions. Shukra, whose Venus governs pleasure, beauty, fertility, art, sensuality, and reproduction, all strongly Shakti linked domains. Buddha is born from Tara, making his story very entangled with feminine energy. Shani is sometimes said to be born from Chaya, a shadow goddess. So the feminine is not absent, it's embedded in the mythology. And Vedic astrology assigns genders differently. So in Jyotisha, the classification is as follows. Masculine grahas are Sun, Mars, and Jupiter. The feminine grahas are planets, right? Not the deity of the planet, are Moon and Venus, or Shukra and Chandra, Chandra and Shukra, sorry. Neutral ones are Mercury or Buddha and Saturn, Shani, and Rahu, Ketu are often considered shadow and beyond gender. So it's kind of balanced. The deeper cosmology is that in Hindu philosophy, the universe arises from Purusha and Prakriti. Every force contains both. The grahas are expressions of cosmic order and not biological beings. The masculine imagery reflects authority, movement, and rulership, not literal gender. And historically, there were female planetary deities, such as, but to a smaller extent or degree, such as Chandra can sometimes appear as a goddess, Shukra can be linked with Lakshmi-like qualities, and Navagraha temples sometimes included consorts. So the mainstream iconography apparently just standardized the male forms. So if you look at it symbolically, right, each one represents a different aspect of ourselves. Surya or represents the self. Chandra represents the mind and the reflective capacity, which is very important. Like Chandra is probably one of the most important players in your chart. Mangala is action, Buddha is intellect, Guru represents wisdom, Shukra is desire and beauty, Shani is karma and time. And so you see these are functions of consciousness and not genders. Okay. All right. So let's dive in and get started. And one thing that we need to clear is why these are called grahas. And in Western astrology, we talk about planets. But in Vedic, the ancient system from India, for those of you that are super new and just stumbled over this, we call them grahas. And that word alone changes everything. Graha doesn't just mean planet, it means that which grasps. There are forces that grip your life, your karma, your soul's journey. They're not just rocks floating in space, they're living cosmic intelligences. So today I'll be walking you through all nine grahas, what they rule, why they matter in your chart, and whether you're brand new to Vedic Astro or just want a refresher, this one's for you. Let's go. So before we dive in, right, Vedic astrology uses nine grahas, not 10 planets like in Western astrology. We don't use Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto. Instead, we use Rahu and Ketu, the north and south nodes of the moon, as full grahas because in this system they carry enormous weight. So remember that Vedic astrology comes from this ancient system, the oldest known religious system on earth. And this Sanata Dharma has no real beginning in that sense. It has no real founder. And it's over 5,000 years old. And astrology is part of the limbs, part of the being of this religion. So these grahas have been observed over time to exert an influence over life, over this planet, over life, over cycles. And it's interesting because even when we look at Rahu and Ketu, these are not actual planets or forces or rocks that are floating in orbit. They are calculated points, and still they exert influence over our lives. So there are other points as well and other things that exert influence, but these are the main ones that we focus on in Vedic astrology. Okay. And yeah. So, anyways, each graha has a nature. So, benefic, which is, of course, benevolent, or malefic, which is challenging. We're not going to say malevolent. And it rules signs of the zodiac, days of the week, a body part, elements, like all kinds of things that it's associated with. So, let's meet them. And we're going to start off with Surya. So, Surya, of course, means sun. Okay. And Surya is the king of the grahas. This represents your soul, your ego, your authority, and your father. I hope that shows up and my picture's not over it. um, Let me see. Yeah, 1 second here. Let's do that. Okay. All right. So your father. And it's all about identity, who you are at your core. And in your chart, where it sits tells you a lot about your purpose and where you need to shine. So in that, it's pretty much similar to Western Astro, right? He's masculine, of course, malefic by nature. And this is because his energy is tense and demanding. So the sun can create a desert, right? It can nourish, it can sustain, it can also create deserts and burn everything to the ground. So it's seen as malefic, and he rules the sign of Leo. The sun also demands you, wherever it is, to show yourself, to shine, to reveal, to streak. So if your sun is strong in your chart, you may be naturally confident, leadership driven, right? You may be a natural authority. You may be a natural leader. And people may look to you, right, to point the way forward, to enlighten them in a sense. But if it's weak or afflicted, right? So your sun is energy is low, then you're going to have challenges with self-confidence, like zero self-confidence, difficulties with father, difficulties with authority figures in general. Okay. That's going to be a problem for you. But there are always ways to work things out. So whatever I say here, it's the extreme. Okay. So don't go running to your chart now and think, oh my gosh, like this is it. No, no. What I'm saying here are the extremes just for educational. I'm going over my own notes. Like I said, you're learning with me. And so And these are the extremes, and it's always kind of like mitigated in charts. Okay. So you're always going to have strengths and you're always going to have weaknesses, and it's about balancing them out. Yeah. All right. So that's Surya. Let's move on to the second one. And that is Chandra. Okay. And Chandra, of course, is the moon. Some call Chandra Soma as well. So Chandra is really interesting because this is one of the most important planets in your chart, like hands down, because it's your mind. Chandra shows exactly how your mind works. It is everything in Vedic astrology. Unlike Western astro, where the sun takes the spotlight, in Vedic, your moon sign is your Rashi, right? Your moon sign. Rashi is called Rashi is a sign. So your moon Rashi is your primary identity. Okay. This is who you truly, truly are. And the moon represents your mind, your mother, your emotions, and the public. Okay. Chandra is feminine, is benefic. I'm going to start using symbols. Is benefic, so benevolent. And that rules the sign of Cancer. The day is Monday. And a strong moon will give you emotional intelligence. It will give you intuition. And it will give you warmth. A troubled moon gives you anxiety, gives you mood swings, gives you complicated relationship with your mother or homeland. Okay. Of course, these are just minimal keywords, right? To each graha, there's so much more. And we're just skimming the surface, barely skimming the surface in this video. It's just to get your appetite going, your interest awakened for this amazing, beautiful science of Jyotish. So let's move on and dive into Mangala. Mangala or Mangal. Some say Mangal, some say Mangala. It all depends. Okay. Mangal. And this is Mars. And Mars is, of course, the warrior, the fire. Yeah. It rules your energy, your drive, your courage, willpower, siblings, how you fight. Okay. It is, of course, masculine. Its day is, or his day is Tuesday. He's seen as a malefic and rules Aries and Scorpio. I forgot to say what the moon rules. If you want to go back, if you're taking notes or what have you, the moon rules only one sign, and that is Cancer. And the sun rules only one sign, and that is Leo. And all the other grahas rule two signs each. So really, actually easy to remember. So so well-placed Mars will give you incredible drive and strength. And afflicted Mars, well, aggression, accidents, and conflict. Okay. So it's an energy that drives, it's an energy that pushes, it's a strong, punchy energy. And it's meant to push things along. It's literally meant to drive things along. So the energy of Surya, for example, is bright and confident and shining and radiating. It's also there's a stability to it. And of Chandra, it's very soft and intuitive and graceful. But Mars is like a fist through a wall. It's very punchy, it's strong, and it can be destabilizing. It can absolutely be destabilizing. Okay. Right. Moving on to Mercury. Mercury, what's coming up? And we've got for Mercury, its name is Bud or Buddha, not to be confused with the Buddha. This is Merc. And this is the communicator. Sorry, you guys. It is so hard on a screen, but I'm practicing. Student, the trickster. Okay. Like we all know Hermes. And so these are the qualities and the traits that go in with Mercury. He governs intelligence, communication. We said that. Speech, business, logic, writing. So please, Mercury, help me with my writing here on the screen. His new gender is neutral. Okay. And he's considered a benefic, but he's even more benefic when he is next to benefics. Okay. And but he can take on malefics too. It depends on where he sits. So he kind of absorbs the energy of the room and plays along with it. And he rules Gemini and Virgo. Okay. Um, so his day is Wednesday. And that's actually in English, it comes from Woden's Day, which is completely something else. But in French, in Latin, you can hear it, right? So Mercury and mercredi. In French, mercredi, that's Wednesday. And same root, Mercury. So strong Mercury, then you have a sharp mind. You have a gift for languages, and you have a gift for words. Okay. You will have the gift of the gab. You will be having a natural business sense. But if it's weak or afflicted, oh, confusion, confusion, confusion. And learning difficulties, nervous system issues, this all can come from a weak or afflicted Mercury. Okay, we'll move on to Guru or Brihaspati. And everybody loves Guru. Of course, Jupiter. So this is a warm, expansive energy. Wherever Jupiter is, it just spreads out like warm honey, molasses, just goodness. And so this is the great teacher. And it's the most benefic of all the grahas. Guru represents wisdom, abundance, children, spirituality. I'm just going to write spirit. Your teachers and gurus in life. He's grace and expansion. Thank goodness, right? So he's masculine. He's the greater benefic and rules Sagittarius and Pisces. His day is Thursday. And Jupiter's placement in your chart shows you where life has blessed you, where you grow and expand. A strong Jupiter is one of the best things you can have in a chart. It's like cosmic protection. A weakened Jupiter may mean struggles with faith, finances, and with having children. Okay. So it really affects you. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next graha, which is Shukra. And Shukra is, of course, Venus. And Venus is seen as feminine. We know that. And this rules love, beauty, pleasure, and art. Second here. So, love, beauty, pleasure, and art. So, it governs relationships, luxury, creativity, women, and desire. This is a big one. She shows how we attract and what we value and how we experience joy. Okay, so value, joy, and attraction. And her day is Friday. And a strong, she's a benefic, the smaller benefic. And a strong Venus will give you charm. She'll give you dimples and beauty, artistic talent, and fulfilling relationships. Okay. And um, a weak or an afflicted Venus will bring heartbreak, weak will or indulgence, and difficulty in love. And difficulty in any area of the chart she touches. So there's that. Okay. But again, this is all the extremes, right? Let's move on to Shani. And this is one that a lot of people fear. It's the greater malefic. But there's nothing to fear with Shani, only to do. So Shani is Saturn. And Shani is one of the, more serious planets, clearly. But He represents karma, discipline, delay, loss, suffering, and ultimately liberation through effort. You can work it off. Liberation through effort. Okay. And he's the most malefic. So actually he's like super malefic and negative, 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 and not in the case of negative and negative equals positive. No. This is um deeply crushing karmic energy in the traditional Vedic view. And he's the great teacher who doesn't let you cheat. Like he sees everything. Okay. He sees everything and he doesn't let you cheat. And he makes note of everything you do. So he's super malefic again. He's masculine, of course, and he rules Capricorn and Aquarius. Well, in some systems he's not masculine. In some systems he's neutral. So it again it varies. So some say he's neutral, some say he's masculine. Um, but rules definitely rules in all systems, Aquarius and Capricorn. Aquare. Okay. And but the thing about Shani is he's not cruel, he's just. He gives you exactly what you've earned. A strong, well-placed Saturn can give you incredible endurance. Like these people are, they just endure everything. Success that lasts. Deep wisdom. And this is a wisdom that is deeply earned. This is, I've always said, Jupiter will give you gold glitter and fool's gold and say, hey, did well, have fun with it. But what you earn from Saturn, Saturn genuinely gives you. Saturn is the one that will give you diamonds. Saturn is the one that will give you gold. Saturn is the one that will give you all the earth's treasures that he created through pressure, right? You become one of Earth's treasures through Saturn. So it's really just, and he just asks you to work for it. Just put in some effort. Just put in some energy. Just put in some time. That's it. And the famous Sade Sati that everybody is so afraid of, the 7.5 year Saturn transit, it's one of the most talked of periods in Vedic astrology. So we'll get to that in later videos, though. Okay. So now we'll move on to Rahu. And Rahu is something. Like Rahu can be incredibly. So Rahu is the north node of the moon. And he's one of those that is just a point in space, basically, right? So he's the north node of the moon. Rahu has no physical body. He's a shadow planet, a mathematical point where the moon's orbit crosses the sun's path. Okay. So the in Vedic astrology, though, it's one of the most powerful forces in your chart, and it's the head without the body. Okay, as you can see in this image over here. And he represents obsession, illusion, um, worldly desire, desire for fame, foreigners, technology, and the unconventional. So wherever Rahu is in your chart, he can amplify, he's what your soul craves in this lifetime, right? So this is what your soul is, can't get enough of. It's like Rahu doesn't have a stomach, he's just a mouth. So he can eat the moon and still not be full, right? And he amplifies everything he touches, and sometimes to a dangerous degree. So, for example, if you have Rahu in the 10th house, you must be absolutely career driven. You're driven for success, and not just any kind of success, the kind of success that makes you feel, that makes you visible, where other people say, yeah, that's success. That is the epitome of success. That is what drives Rahu, is to get that, right? And so it depends on the house that he's in, how he's going to express this desire, but express it he will. And he's considered, he needs to be seen. So whichever house he's also sitting in, Rahu needs to be seen. So this is one of the biggest things, is that to control it, right? Because it wants to be seen by others and be noticed in the house that he's sitting in. So he amplifies everything he touches. He's considered a malefic, though he can give extraordinary success, material success. He's restless, hungry, and never satisfied. His hunger is insatiable. Okay. And where Rahu sits in your chart is where you're meant to evolve, even if that path feels chaotic. So you're actually meant to experience this. This is what you need to go through in order to transform that Rahu energy that is there. And it's funny because, reading about all of this and diving into it, it kind of reminds me of, and I've mentioned this in other videos on my other channel, of Jacob Lorber. And Jacob Lorber was a visionary, a mystic, a seer who, during the late 1800s, I believe, he wrote some really insightful channeled material that couldn't have come out of his own, from his own intelligence or out of his own consciousness. Impossible. And it was so detailed and so scientifically advanced and so on and so forth. And so a movement formed around him. But in any case, in one of the books that he wrote, he said that he spoke with God. And this is what God said, was that he had trapped Lucifer, right? The first created being and the fallen being, in this plane of existence. And that every living thing, every being in this plane of existence, every atom, every molecule contains a part of Lucifer, because it's easier to transform everything separately than the entire being itself. It was too massive, and God didn't want to destroy it, because even if he created another being, that other being would make the same mistake that the first being had made. So, and it's a long, complicated story, so I won't dive too much into it, but suffice to say, to bring it back to Rahu, um, it just everything ties together, right? All these stories that have been told to me over time, that I've stumbled across over time, like they all repeat themselves through everything almost. So here, each one of us carries a piece of this demon or this fallen creature, or Rahu is considered one half of the demon. Ketu is the other half, which we'll get to in a second. And Rahu is the one that's driving you forward, that has this insatiable hunger, that wants to be seen, acknowledged, validated, recognized, honored, respected. It craves things that also it didn't necessarily work for. So this is where we have to be careful. Rahu is what drives the false gurus or the false teachers. Rahu is the overblown ego, right? So even in Jupiter, it blows things up, sure, but it's a benefic. So it gives wisdom, it gives intelligence to a certain degree, of course. But Rahu has no body, has no feet, has no grounding, has no attachments, has no nothing. It just wants to eat, to devour, to consume. And it drives people. So depending on the kind of Rahu you have, it can get pretty chaotic in that area, but you need to experience this and evolve through it. Very important. Okay. So the second one, his twin on the other, and the Ketu and Rahu are always opposite each other because they're the nodes of the moon. So Ketu is always going to be exactly opposite Rahu. And Ketu is the south node of the moon. And this is your memory. This is literally Ketu remembers your past lives. It's what you're meant to grow out of, right? Not leave behind in that sense, but evolve out of. And Ketu represents past life memory, spiritual liberation, detachment, which can get pretty interesting for people with Ketu in the first house, psychic ability, and I'll explain that in a second, and moksha. Okay. The ultimate freedom from the cycle of rebirth. Ketu gives you your gifts from your past life. Okay. And again, it's neutral. Ketu is neutral. They're out beyond gender, and they don't have a weekday. No, they don't have a specific sign that they rule, although they feel comfortable. And for example, Rahu feels comfortable in Scorpio, but mm, yeah. So, anyways, this is areas where you feel inexplicably detached or lost. And no matter what you try to make in this area, it always seems to kind of drift away or disintegrate. And no matter how hard you try to root yourself in that area, and you know what you're doing, you know how to do that, you've done it in thousands of past lives before. In this life, it kind of like, nope, this is not the way it's going to go in this life. So even though he is a malefic, Ketu is deeply spiritual. And the psychic gift comes because he has no head, quite literally, has no head. So because the story goes that Rahu was so evil and he was going up against the gods, and the gods cut him in half, cut off his head. Actually, it was the moon goddess who cut off his head because he was trying to drink the Amrita of the gods, the nectar of the gods, but he was a demon. He's not allowed to drink that stuff. And the moon goddess in that moment was disguised as her feminine self and took out a sword and cut off the head of the demon of Rahu. So Rahu forever had no body and the body had no head. So not having a head, not having an ego, not having a strong sense of self, not having an identity. Of course, you're going to be psychic in that sense because you identify with everything and you just feel into everything. There's no center point that is cutting everything off, right? So Rahu doesn't really identify with anything. It's just all about me. And but Ketu, because it doesn't have a head, it attaches to everything with a head, right? So, in any case, Rahu and Ketu are always exactly opposite each other in your chart, forming an axis that reveals your soul journey from where you've been, okay, past, to where you are now, okay, and where you're headed as well. Rahu points to where you're headed, okay. So, yeah, all right. There you have it, you guys. I think this was pretty basic, yes, but we'll get deeper into each graha as we move along. And it's yeah. I'm having fun. I hope you are too. Let me stop the share. And so those are it. The nine grahas of Vedic astrology: the Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, or Surya, Chandra, Mangal, Bud, Guru, Shukra, Shani, and the two shadow planets, Rahu and Ketu. Each one is a living force in your chart, shaping your personality, your relationships, your karma, and your destiny. Now, here's what I'd like you to do is drop in the comments. What graha do you think has the strongest presence in your life right now? Are you feeling a Shani lesson, a Rahu obsession, a Jupiter blessing? Let me know. I genuinely want to know. And if you want to drop what sign, house your graha is in, that would help tremendously too. And if you want me to do a deep dive on any single graha, comment below and I'll create that video next. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss it. I'm Elira, and this is Elira Seraphine, and you're joining me on my Jyotish journey. Take care, you guys. Bye.